the sack was something that we did not expect, and so puts us in a really tough situation there. But again, the efficiency certainly starts with the offensive line. I think you saw some of that again. I think you're seeing steps forward, and Trey is a big part of that.
Front row, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, Jermaine Matthews played as much as he is. I know he was a big-time recruit, enrolled early, but are you kind of surprised how far along he is at this point?
When we recruited Jermaine, we felt like this was a very competitive player. We had him in camp, and at camp, it was a really hot day out there, and he competed the whole day and just kept going and going. Usually guys, and at the time, we hadn't offered him, and he was fighting for a scholarship. He was just hungry. You could see it. And then when he got in here, you saw the same thing. I mean, once the competition started, he was at his best. So you just never know till you get him into those situations. But it seems like the bigger the stage, the more he likes it. And he is, nowhere near a finished product. But the competitiveness and the physicality is there. He's been challenged having to step up to be a starter. He's responded to that. And now, that he's put a couple of games on film, he's going to have to now continue that and show consistency.
I want to ask about another true freshman real quick. I know you have depth issues at tight end. Any plans on using Jelani Thurman maybe a little bit?
Yeah, we're trying to build as much depth as we can in that room. I thought that G and Pat both stepped up in a big way. Jelani has an opportunity every day to show that he can be counted on in a game, and he was ready to go in the game if needed, and so we'll keep pushing him to get better. We think he has a tremendous skill set, and he has a very bright future ahead of him. So we're all in on him. So he's the tight end, as we talked about before. The tight end position is a developmental position. There's a lot there. Yep.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, you said after the with the punt and when Jesse took off running, there was a miscommunication happened there. And now that you've had some time to look back on it, what led up to that?
Well, the ball should have been punted. Never should have been run in that situation. So ultimately, I'm the head coach, and so it comes back on me. But it needs to be communicated better, and it's unacceptable.
Any way the communication happens where it's a miscommunication like that?
I just think the communication has to be clearer. When you make it too gray, you just you make it hard on the player, and no excuse. Jesse needs to punt the ball, but I think as coaches we can be clearer in exactly what we want on a play.
Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
I guess continuing on that subject, this is going back to last season. Obviously, you had two situations last year. You had called punt fakes against Michigan, against Georgia, and they're not lined up right. They're not communicated right there. So, what happened in the offseason that even despite those issues, you decided to extend Parker? You got a raise, and continue what is also sort of an imbalance in the coaching staff between offensive and defensive coaches.
Well, I watch Parker every day, and I see the way he coaches, and I think he's a great teacher and a great coach. And I can just tell you that he works as hard as anybody in the building. But we're all being evaluated every single time we're out there, and it's everybody that's involved in special teams. It's not just the coordinator, although he's ultimately in charge, and I'm ultimately in charge. So you can put it back on me, but clearly, we've everybody who's in charge of special teams, because there's a lot of coaches that are involved with that, in the meetings, can all do a better job, and so we'll just keep pushing to make it better. But we know what the expectation is.
Changing subjects. It seems to be like this dichotomy right now between being pretty excited about the way the offense has looked in the second halves of games, but not so much in the first half. And where is your kind of balance of thought right now between being encouraged by what you're seeing in the second halves, but also maybe wondering when the first half is going to leave you too big of a hole to pull out of?
I felt like there was some good individual performances when you put the film on Saturday, but you still want to see more overall just drives finish. And so the encouraging thing was we had more guys grade out. That was good. We just didn't complete enough drives there and finish with points in the first half. So again, there are definitely signs that we're moving in the right direction, but, you know, it's getting late in the season, so our urgency is at an all-time high.
Doug Reese, Kings of Columbus.
Another special teams question. You did in 2020. You did make a coaching adjustment in the midst of the season when a side wasn't performing up to snuff. Have you considered that with special teams to do something in the middle of this season?
No, I think, you know, we're going to stay where we are right now. You know, I feel, again, I'm there every day. I'm watching how things are taught. And, you know, we all need to be a part of it, you know, as a coaching staff. You know, if I felt there was something that was not being taught right or done right, then I certainly would intercede. But I'm in those meetings. I see what goes on. And so, you know, we just need to do a better job. But like anything, you know, we'll continue to evaluate it and make sure that we're doing what's best for the players.
And a handful of plays last week during the season when you've had two running backs on the field. We know Chip is sort of like a fullback sometimes in those situations. But what does it give you every now and then when you maybe have Travion and Chip out there together? What does that do to the defense?
Well, it gives you two ball carriers, and when that happens, they have to at least defend you a little bit differently. There's different schemes that you have to defend, and you know, both of those guys bring a different skill package to the table. And you know, when you're in three wide receivers with one tight end, they defend you a certain way. When you bring in another running back, it's just the spacing's different, the schemes are different, the angles are different. And sometimes when you can change that up, it opens up things in other areas, you know, so a team isn't just focused on one personnel grouping or one scheme. And so to mix those things in is healthy. Now, you have to be efficient with it, you know, and you have to figure out where you want to spend your time to get really good. But both of those guys give us something on the field at the same time.
Austin Ward, the podcast, Rivals.
Brian, I'm wondering if there's been any sort of philosophical change with the way that you all manage the injuries. In that, like, Emeka could go, held him out. Cade, emergency, held him out. Travion. I know that the training staff is ultimately going to make that decision. It's not all in your hands, but is there anything to that maybe after last year, or maybe not with Jackson, I don't know, that you want guys healthier at the end of the year and you're more willing to play a patient game than you might have been in the past?
I don't think that's exactly it. I don't think it really has much to do with last year. I think in the situations that you're talking about guys who will do anything to get back on the field. I just think those are two very unique situations, and you know, both guys are available and just like, Coach, I'm ready to go into the game, and we identify and say, yeah, you could probably an emergency role, and you know, you are available in case something happens, but you're not at 100%, and so you know, it's the training staff's job to make that decision and then inform me, hey, listen, he's not where he needs to be. If he needed to play 10 to 15 to 20 plays, he could do that. But certainly in the long run, it'd be better off if he didn't. That's the conversation. And so, you know, every situation is unique, and that's why, you know, I lean to the doctors and I lean to the sports medicine folks that give me that advice.
What's the calculus for you? If that's the information that's presented and it's 10 to 15, are you just? Is it the score of the game? Is it the opponent you're playing that week? I mean, it's all of that.
All of the above. Yeah. I mean, every week you're trying to figure out, okay, how do you win this game? And then how does it affect the rest of the season? And you do everything you possibly can to put your guys in that position. And all of those things come into play.
Clay Hall, WSYX.
Might have some news from the Big Ten tomorrow. I know you're probably not going to comment on that, but I just noticed an email this morning that you can now bet on a celebrity boxing match between you and the guy who coaches up north. Are you in a good mood, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, I get it, Clay. I know that it's the topic of conversation right now, but
you to say you're going to whoop this guy. I'm just curious if you've ever been in the ring, ever sparred.
I appreciate you, Clay.
What's your best punch?
I'm not going to say anything. I get commented on when I say no comment, so I'm not going to say anything.
Don Ferry, WBNS.
You've said the number one goal is obviously to win. This time of the year, how hard is it, though, to win these games?
Well, I think it goes to your discipline, it goes to your consistency, it goes to your leadership, it goes to your maturity to understand what it takes. Nobody's entitled to winning. And we win a lot of games around here, but it's because of the hard work of the players on the field. And it's the week, it's getting their body up to where it needs to be. That this time of year, that's not easy to do. I mean, these guys, they're putting it on the line. They're preparing their bodies, whether it's the ice baths, whether it's the treatment, eating right, hydrating, sleep. I mean, that's a lot to this run that we're on. Getting their mind right, preparing every week is a different opponent. And then obviously getting your spirit and soul ready to go put it on the line every Saturday. You don't just show up in football and play. I mean, you got to put it on the line. And so every week it's, you build up that fuel tank and you just let it all out in the field. And then you come back and you try to figure out how to get that thing loaded up the most you possibly can to go do it again. And that's going to be the same thing Saturday night. I give Coach Barnett a lot of credit for how he's handled himself, and certainly in a tough situation. They came back and won a game last week, and so like you said, this time of year when you're playing in the Big Ten, you got to bring it, and you see it every single week. So those are the things that we focus on, is every week trying to be consistent, and then hopefully that consistency over time builds momentum, and that it pays off down the road.
How do you think your guys handled the #1 ranking? I know you want to be #1 at the end of the year, but they throw that on you now. You have that moniker.
I think you have so many guys on our team that have just kind of been through all of this before, and they know it means absolutely nothing, and their goal is to win the whole thing and to be the #1 team at the end of the year. So, we want to win them all, and that's all that matters. And so, at the end, they'll rank us, but we're just going to try to win them all, and it continues this Saturday.
Far left, Joe Nugent, WCMH.
Big win by the Houston Texans, another great job by CJ. What do you think of the success that he's having as a rookie this year?
Well, I think he deserves all the success that he's receiving. This is somebody who, went through kind of a tough time during the draft process, and really, a lot of people kind of questioned him in certain ways, and you never saw him react anyway. I thought he's handled himself like a pro. The guys on that team, I think they voted him captain, right? I mean, he's a captain there. For a rookie right out of the gate is tremendous. He walked in and endeared himself to that organization, and now you're starting to see him perform on the field, and he's given that organization hope, and you're seeing it. I think it's the same thing Garrett Wilson did with the New York Jets last year. He gave them hope. I think our guys understand what the expectation is that, you're there to win every game, and so it was great to see him, quickly jump into that role and have the success he's had, and still a lot of football ahead of him though.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
When you go back and look at Kyle's performance on Saturday, just what did you like about what he did, and then were there things that maybe he wasn't seeing down the field that he maybe missed that you guys went over?
Nothing down the field, no. I mean, they were in a pretty too high shell the entire game, so there wasn't much down the field. Safeties were 20 to 25 yards deep on both sides for the majority of the time, and certainly the interception on the 2-minute drill, the ball needs to be layered better. That was the Will linebacker who made that play, and so he knows that. But I thought he was efficient. I thought he checked the ball down when, if they're saying you're not going to throw the ball down the field, you have to be willing to take the check down. And a good example of that was in the first drive. They put a cover 2 on it. He checked the ball down to Emeka, nice and easy, simple football, 10-yard gain, and we keep moving the chains. And that's what you have to be willing to do, is identify what you're getting and then make the right read. So there was some of that. Even the check down to Travion was well done. The timing was right. So I think we could have done a little bit better job of helping him on a couple of the things. We could have thrown it better, caught it better. But if it wasn't for the interception, he would have graded out a champion. I thought overall he graded out well, but anytime you throw an interception and turn the ball over, you're not going to be graded out that way. So again, I thought there was progress made. He started off well, had a bunch of completions in a row. That was good. Something that we've been focused on, trying to get into a rhythm early in the game. So some real good there, and he's got to take the next step here again this week.
Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Ryan, might have been your best day in the red zone as far as efficiency. I know at times you talk about it's just mainly execution more than anything, but what did you see from the red zone?
Well, I thought there was precision down there, like you're saying. I think the throw, I forget what yard line we were with G, but the throw and catch was tremendous. And then the couple throws that Kyle made to Marvin were really well done as well. I mean, highly high efficiency there. And then the run game. I mean, we were running downhill on a couple of those, and every yard is worth 2, and we got vertical on those, and just overall ran the ball better and had more efficiency in the pass game.
And then how is Devin doing in his recovery
Yeah,
process?
yeah, good. Hopefully have a full week this week and be available. He was available on Saturday, so that was good, but another week of not playing certainly allows him to heal even more, so he'll be getting close to 100% here soon.
Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, I wanted to clarify on the fake punt. Was it called a fake punt and Jesse just saw something and ran? Was that the situation?
No. I mean, you have a rollout punt, and there are certain times where if nobody's out in front of you, you can take it. And we usually roll out to our right. We rolled out to our left in that spot, and so there was an overload to the right, and so the decision we just made too quickly, and they were able to rally to it, and so once you get the ball in that spot, we want the ball punted.
Following up on Kyle, we've seen him have some really good stretches in games, and then like 11 for 11 to start, then he goes 1 for 5, then he comes back and plays well at the end. Sometimes it's been first half, second half. When you guys look at good stretches versus bad stretches, are you seeing anything, trends or anything for him when it's working and when it's clicking, and maybe when it's not?
The only thing I can recognize is when his feet are right and his eyes are right, that's when he's at his best. Yeah, I don't know if I can recognize anything in particular other than that. I think there's been some times maybe earlier in the game where his feet are moving a little bit faster or maybe a little bit slower than the game, but once he's found the rhythm of the game and his feet are in rhythm, that's when he's been at his best.
Is there a way to get him that way earlier in games?
Yeah, a little bit. You try to find things that he's comfortable with, but sometimes you can't always predict it the right way, and you have to continually get more and more experience behind you so that you can get that feel for it. But a big part of it is during the week, trying to give him those looks so that and I thought he did a nice job of that in the game. There was some things that came up where you're looking for a route down the field, all of a sudden there's just like bodies right there, you find the check down, and that's good football, and it just, now you have to be disciplined enough to do that, and you have to be able to execute those things, but I thought there was some good decisions made there.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, it looked like Tommy hurt his arm at the end of the game. Is he okay?
Yeah, it was another physical game, and it's like you come out of the game and you go in there and try to identify what happened with everybody. So we'll keep trying to get these guys treatment the best we can. That's kind of what I was talking about when it comes to bodies. Everyone's kind of this time of year is struggling. So, yeah, I mean, I expect them to be out there today, and we'll kind of see how the week goes. But this time of year, you're gonna have a lot of guys with bumps and bruises for sure.
With Denzel and Lathan, are you expecting to have either of them back this week?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're expecting Denzel to have a pretty good week of work here. Lathan, I think we're probably going to continue to identify kind of where he's at, maybe later in the week. But yeah, Denzel will be out there today.
Tony Kerman, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, with your secondary, last year you guys started 5 corners and 5 safeties throughout the year. This year you're already at 4 corners and I think 5 safeties. What's been the difference in keeping that level despite still playing a bunch of guys?
Well, I think it comes down to just the recruiting and making sure you have the right guys there, but then also the experience. You think about where now Jordan is and Denzel, and you added IGB into the mix. Jermaine Matthews was able to step up in a big way though. And I just think overall we just have more depth than we've had there and just more experience, where maybe in the past we were playing young guys, freshmen, or sophomores that hadn't played a lot.
What does it do for your recruiting when you can point and say, we've started freshman corners each of the last 3 years?
It's big. It's huge. Yeah. And the response we've got from the recruits has been excellent. They see it. They're looking real close, because one thing to say it, it's another thing to actually see it. And so we make sure that they see it.
Far right, Adam King, WBNS.
Back in the summer, you said you were going to work more with defense and try to, be a CEO a little bit more. Obviously, the offense has kind of been the sticking point this year. What's that been like to maybe not have to worry about the defense at all and be able to just focus on that?
Yeah, it's huge. And Jim and his staff have done a great job. Tim and Larry and Perry, they've all been a big part of the day-to-day. And so it's huge as we make this run. But ultimately, I got to make sure everything's in place, and we're going to have all three phases going in the right direction here and be at our best.
With Kyle, obviously you can coach him up every game, but at some point you're kind of looking for him to take that next step. Is there anything else you can do at this point, or is it just getting him reps in the game and hoping it just kind of breaks out?
Oh yeah. No, you keep grinding on it. You keep working at it. Constantly. Yeah. I mean, you never, change that part of it. No, I mean, Kyle has been here for a couple years, but he still hasn't played a ton of football. So the more he gets out there, the more you grind on it, the more you learn, the better off you're going to be. You think about those guys who have been in the NFL for, 8-10 years, some guys longer than that. They just have such an advantage over everybody because they've seen it so much. And so the guys who can learn quickly the quickest from their mistakes are usually ones that get better the fastest. So, we stay after it, just like every position, but certainly quarterback is the one that's most visible.
Spencer Holbrook, 11 row.
Right, it's not that the offensive line doesn't like the other running backs, but it seems like they're blocking harder since they got back, and the run game just looks a little cleaner. Have you seen that, and just how much of a difference does just having Trey in there make it look cleaner?
It's probably, maybe it's a little bit of both there, but I think I mentioned that before. It's everybody involved. It's the receivers getting in there and digging people out. It's the tight ends and their blocks. It's the quarterback making sure we get into the right play or possibly reading somebody, or, if it's a read or an RPO, making sure that, we're not running into an overload box at times. It's making sure that as coaches we put them into the right play. I mean, it's everybody involved. But when you're having success, you just believe more. You start to see more of a confidence, and that's probably what you're recognizing.
Tim May on 3.
Thank you, Jerry. When you watch a quarterback, do you ever step back about this point in the season and kind of in your mind have a chart on how he's progressing? You understand what I'm saying? Because I would think everybody starts out reticent, then they get bold, and then they get bit by being bold, and then they get reticent again and stuff. And is Kyle kind of on that chart where you want him to be, if you follow my drift, of awareness, but also not being stupid with the ball, and just, you know what I mean? Just, do you actually have that in mind?
Well, I think, there's certain things that you have to learn from, and you don't know until you've actually done them. You don't know until you've been, stripped. You don't know until, you got a zero pressure and you don't have a place to go with the ball. You learn all those things. You try to do the best you can as a coach to get out in front of those and give them a plan. But ultimately, you have to be a problem solver at quarterback. And, so we'll see. I mean, there's still so much football left. We're going to keep going at it this week and, kind of see where he's at. But it is, it's for everybody, but for Kyle as well, just that build-up of continually getting that experience to go play his best football here down the stretch.
Josh Proctor had a great thing to say on Saturday. Interesting thing, he said it before, but the defense's motto is if they have an inch to defend, they're going to defend it.
Yeah.
You've seen these goal line stands and these stands in the red zone. First one, you kind of go, okay, blah, blah. Seems to be a trend here that's favorable for you guys. Do you see that also? And what is the difference do you see in this defense, especially when it gets in the red zone? It's just jumped out at you.
Yeah, that's something that Jim brought here immediately. Give us an inch, we'll defend it, and the guys believe in that and they embrace it. So even when a big play breaks out, if we can get them on the ground, that could be a 4-point play. And I think of just a big part of it is confidence and belief that the guy next to me is going to do my job, and if I do my job, and we're all in this thing together, we can stop these guys. And that's all situational football that we've been screaming all off season. If you can win in the red zone, like we won in the red zone pretty handily. We scored 4 touchdowns on offense, and I think stopped them I think they were 1 for 4, I think. When you do something like that and force field goals in that spot, and you're scoring touchdowns on the other side of the ball, those are all 4-point plays. And the guys have embraced that. And so, we'll get together Tuesday as our first and second down. We're talking about running the football, winning first down, taking care of the football, explosive plays. Then we come back on Wednesday, it's about third down, short yardage, red zone, goal line, the situations. And I think the guys really have understood that and embraced what exactly is going on, the time, the down and distance, the situation in the game, and those have been huge plays for us.
I know you're not going to comment, but I'm going to ask anyway. When you see your family's name brought up in situations like what has been going on for the last several weeks, does that make you angry? What obviously, it has been brought to one reporter's attention that they have no evidence of anything like that occurring. But how do you handle all that tornado that's going on, along with what you're dealing with inside the building?
Yeah, I just, right now, all you can do is focus on what's important. And what's important right now is Michigan State. And so we always say ignore the noise. The noise comes in different ways. We've talked about how, like, for instance, the defense, they've played really well to this point. And, last year it took a lot of heat for that. And so, they're getting a lot of positive reinforcement. You have to ignore that noise. Like you said, ranked #1 in the country, that's noise. And there's a lot of other noise out there. And so we have to get rid of all that stuff. And the team that can get rid of the distractions and the noise and ignore the noise the most this time of year gives them their best chance to play their best football. And so we're all going to do that, whether it's coaches or players.
Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, one more kind of about related to the injury stuff. I know that you never overlook an opponent, but Michigan State and then Minnesota, I mean, your big favorites knows you have a huge game obviously at the end. How much do you weigh? I want to make sure these guys are healthy, and obviously we've got to win the game, but I want to make sure that they're healthy for the game. How do you kind of weigh that? Is that on your mind now?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about how we need to be playing our best at the end of the year, and a big part of that, like we talked about earlier, your body, your mind, your soul, and part of it is your body. And so these guys work hard, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that they're fresh, and try to make the best decision. It's one of those things where you can't just say one thing that covers everybody or covers the whole situation. Each guy is a little bit unique, each situation's unique. What's our depth look like? Those type of things. But our guys know how important every game is. I mean, this is a very important game. We've got to play well in this game, and so that's where the focus is. And when you start thinking about anything else, you can get yourself out of whack. And so we won't do that. But we also want to be fresh down the stretch, like we're talking about. This is down the stretch, but we'll evaluate it each week, each situation, the best we can, to make the decision that we think gives us the best chance.
And a question about Jordan Hancock. I mean, he's been obviously pretty important given his versatility and plays he's made. Is there anything kind of behind the scenes that you have seen, that you saw in him, maybe from last year to this year, that is responsible for some of the transformation?
I think Jordan, two things. One is extremely competitive. Extremely competitive. You saw that right when he jumped in the program. Just recognized that part of it. And the second thing is he has a tremendous work ethic. I mean, he's in here a lot watching film on his own, constantly wearing out Coach Walt. He works hard at it. He's another guy who has a tremendous work ethic and is also very competitive. And when you combine those two things with his ability, you're starting to see some production. And that was a big play he had on Saturday for sure.
Bill Landis, the podcast, Kings.
You mentioned the sack you guys took in the first half of the game. What happened on that play?
I don't. It was a unique play. We've never really seen it before. The nickel and the will came at the same time. I don't know if there was a miscommunication on their end or what happened, but it caught us off guard, and it's not something we were expecting. So I don't know exactly how it played out, but the line was going one way and both guys came. So very unique, but I'm glad that Kyle held on to that one because we weren't prepared for that. And so we made an adjustment to make sure that moving forward, if that were to get called again, and was it executed on defense that way, that we were ready for it. It didn't happen again. So just. I wrote it off as a one-off, and he held onto the ball, and we just had to move on. And I think it was 2nd and 19, and would love to see us get half back there. Took the flat, but when you take a hit like that you're not expecting, you can get rattled quick as a quarterback. And so he had to get his feet back underneath him, and at the end of the play we ended up pooching. And I know that's not a great scenario. That's not what we want to be. We want to score points in that spot, but we didn't turn the ball over, and we don't want to lose the ball in 3rd and extra long. So overall, I thought Kyle in that moment handled himself well. That's how that played out.
So maybe this play doesn't, that play doesn't apply technically, but just sort of in general, like seeing where you think pressure is going to come from. I know sometimes it's hard when it's coming from depth. Like, how do you think Kyle, Carson, the tackles have all sort of handled that and communicated that this year?
I think there's been good times, but there's also things that we got to do better. And defenses do a great job of changing up the looks. The minute you think you got them, here comes another twist or another guy coming from another way. And as a coach, it's like, well, if it looks like this, they really can't bring that guy, and then all of a sudden they bring him and run a guy over, and so you have to be able to react. You have to be able to identify what they're doing early in the game. And I remember a coach telling me one time that used to go against, Peyton Manning, that early in the game they'd bring something that he hadn't seen before, and the first thing he'd do is just throw it over his head. They'd punt, and you aren't going to get him again. But that play wasn't going to ruin the game. And so sometimes, when they get you schematically, you got to take care of the football and just hang in and cut your losses, as opposed to the ball going up in the air and ruining the whole day. We don't want that, but there's some good schemes out there and good coaches. And so, there were a couple on Saturday, but then I thought we settled down a little bit on third down. Well, we did. We did a much better job on third down in the second half.
All right, I want to try to get to everybody, but I'm going to have to limit it to one question. Andy Anders, 11 Warriors.
I think, you mentioned the red zone efficiency on both sides of the ball on Saturday. Obviously, Penn State and third downs, especially on defense, were big. Have you seen a situational improvement from this team as the year has progressed, and what do you think has caused that?
Well, it was a big emphasis for us in the offseason. Yeah, if we want to win games, we have to win the situations. Big emphasis. Go through them, coach them. Now, we'll see down the stretch if it pays off for us, but it's been something that we talk about after every game. We identify each of the situations. There's 12 situations that we want to win, and then our whole offseason was about competing. And then, if you're competing to win those situations, your chances of winning go way up. And so I think on Saturday we were 8 wins, 2 losses, and 2 ties. So that's you're going to win the game. You won the game by 19 points. Now there's some things that we could have done better, and it would have been a different game. But if like winning the red zone, I think short yardage, we won big. I think we were on offense. We were maybe 5 for 5, and on defense, was really good too. I forget exactly what it was. Maybe 2 for 5. So now you're 7 for 10 or something like close like that. And so working hard to make sure we win that first down, explosive plays. I think explosive plays were even, but we counted Jordan Hancock's as an explosive play. So that made it 5-4. That was an explosive play. It changed the whole game. So now I think our guys get it. I think you see even on the fourth down play where, they snapped it and then handed it off to the guy behind, and then he gets around the edge. IGB and those guys are fighting like crazy. We had like 5 guys sprinting to get him down on the ground because they believe we get him on the ground, we can play some red zone defense. Those are 4-point plays. So I do think there's some awareness there. I think our guys have had some awareness in 2-minute. We've had to win a game in a 2-minute already this year, and some things at the end of the half. So not perfect by any means, but it's been an emphasis.
Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
You talk a lot about competitive stamina. Can you learn as much about your team from a game like this as you would as a big game where everybody's going to get up for it? I guess I know that obviously it's still a big game for you guys, but big favorites at home, prime time. Can you learn as much about a team from how they handle this kind of situation as opposed to a big game scenario?
I think you learn different things, yeah, but you're always learning, and I think you've heard me say this before. The issues are always there, whether they get brought to the forefront in a game where it comes down to one play or not. That's our job, to identify those as coaches. And so I do that with the team, and I know that the coaches do with their units. Regardless of who you're playing, the issues are there, and so you have to identify what those issues are that need to get fixed, and the things that are going well need to be enhanced. So we watch on offense and defense. We watch clips of the good plays, the things we got to continue to build on, and the plays that, hey man, like if we don't get this thing fixed, it's going to be a problem down the road. And I think the guys appreciate that, and they know that we're continually working to get better because, as we've learned this year, it can come down to a play or two. We certainly know that coming off of last year.
Jeremy Birmingham, podcast.
Ryan, you guys all year, I think you probably will admit, like, haven't played a complete game offensively, and it seems like things ramp up in the second half every week where you are more efficient and maybe a little bit cleaner. You lost Kevin Wilson in the offseason, and it hasn't really been talked about, the alignment of the staff.
who's upstairs, who's on the field. Is there anything to that discussion? Like, you have guys in the box that are relatively inexperienced compared to what Kevin was. Do you guys think about changing that at all, or is there any? Do you attribute the success in the second half to getting a chance to collect those thoughts at halftime?
You know, I don't know. I think that one of the things we've tried to do is really establish the run game this year, probably maybe more than last couple of years with CJ. And, you know, it sometimes takes a little time for you to establish the run game. And, you know, I think you're starting to see that happen as you know, as the game goes on. You start to see those 3-yard hits get to 4 and 5, and then you start to see the 5 and 6s get to, you know, a little bit more explosive plays, and then it opens up more things in the pass game. But there's no question that we want to be faster. We want to be moving out of the gates. We want to be more efficient. We want to score. But, you know, part of the run game too is, you know, making hard 3s and 4s early on. And so what that forces you to do is you got to be really good on third down. And that's to me what didn't happen on Saturday. We didn't execute on third down in the first half. And because if you can convert on those third downs and you can start to wear on the run game a little bit, that's when every play gets a little better. So I think it more has to do with, you know, being more efficient on third down, especially early in the game.
I mean, you said before, like, you don't want to be banging your head into the wall, but that's happened pretty much every game this season. Is there a point where you say, we tried it, it's not where we wanted in the first half, and let's adjust, or is it just keep plodding along?
Well, it's working with the team, right? I mean, that's the first thing you identify is, you know, is it giving you an opportunity to win the game? Now, if all of a sudden, you know, the game changes and, you know, starts to become back and forth or whatever, then you may have to change your philosophy. But, you know, we want to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to win that game, and then we go from there. You know, if we have to, well, I'm just saying, if we have to come out and just, you know, throw the ball every snap, then we'll do that too. But the balance is what we're looking for. And so we'll just keep grinding on it.
Last question, Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Coach, Josh Proctor, I think on the goal line had back-to-back tackles on second and third down, and then has the hit for the interception as well. Kind of an unsung hero, maybe around so many other guys on that defense. Just what he bring, I guess, in those situations, and is he okay after kind of getting a little knocked out there?
Yeah. I you know, I think he's going to be ready to roll here. We'll keep looking at it, but tough player, productive player. Been through a lot, been through injuries, been through a few years here, seen the good, the bad, but he's still here and graded out a champion, and that was one heck of a play. You know, he never broke stride. And, you know, that was a big-time collision, and did a great job of just veering off of him enough not to make contact, you know, with his head. And that's not easy to do when you're going full speed like that. I mean, and you're making, you know, split-second decisions, and that ball squirts up in the air to Jordan. That was a huge play in the game. So, yeah, you know, we're counting on him to be a guy that we can, you know, rely on down the stretch to be a big part of our defense, because he's a veteran guy that certainly has a lot of ability.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Still help.
everything later. You had to what's your message for Leo fucking. Oh, he's coming out for the Minnesota game. When is he going up north? 2 weeks. He doesn't want to die. Yeah, I think it's I mean, there's always an element of risk whenever you show up. No, it's usually pretty simple. Have you ever read that? Where it's like, oh good, explosion at a soccer game. It's just family. Where you came from, your roots. It's just Sean.
Right, you couldn't quite leave it, yeah. That's cool. That's sweet.
That's gonna be the.
Oh, sweet, yeah.
I mean, like, watch this. Okay, so
On the back, that's right. You never did watch somebody.
like somebody calls, he brings the victory, and he brings the line down. It's really risky. Also, like, just like, I'm like, what? Because like, they just dropped the defenses, which is interesting. It's like a weird concept.
It's hard to believe he's never seen it. And Josh Rice is like,
All right, folks. We'll open up the floor for Coach Knowles. Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Hi, Jim. When did you get to the point where you knew if needed, Jermaine Matthews could help you guys out as a true freshman?
I mean, in camp, I mean, there were signs early on from when he, like I said, when he got here, that he competed right away, and you know, he has that confidence that you need out there, particularly for a young guy. But yeah, then we kept putting him in situations. But yeah, we thought in camp he'd be a guy who could play.
Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Jim, you talked about with Malik, I think he got the start against Youngstown State. You said it was a little bit, almost too much for him maybe in the moment. From now, I guess, compared to then, what have you seen from him in his progressions?
He's just, you know, kept his focus. You know, he hasn't let it get him down. He's just been focused on getting better, you know, and learning the game, you know, and processing things at a high speed. So he's just been practicing well, you know, and just staying with it.
Austin Ward, podcast.
Jim, how would you describe your comfort level with the depth of the secondary now compared to a year ago at this time?
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, you just see it out there on the field, you know. I mean, comfortable, uncomfortable, you know, you're playing with your guys. But when you can do it and you see the production, right, and you're not holding your breath every play like something's going to go wrong, I mean, that's real. So it kind of, you know, the depth speaks for itself.
Adam King, WBNS.
This is kind of a sidebar here, but when you look at the Philly special or the brotherly shove or whatever they want to call it, when they line up in that position, if you knew that they were going to run that play, how would you teach a defense to stop it?
You know, you would want to really just play kind of like an across the board zone technique with everybody with their eyes, you know, in the backfield, people, you know, edges, and you know, kind of like 4 across, and everybody see what's going on, and everybody else kill the man with the ball. Yeah.
Tim May show.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. I think you answered this on Saturday. I'm stammering because I'm trying to remember exactly what I wanted to ask this, but sometimes they just get you, right? I mean, do you tip your cap and move on? What's kind of your a reaction to a play like that, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, you got to take responsibility. You know, there's no tipping of the cap, or if you do it, it's kind of you do it while you're gnashing your teeth. You know, I mean, it's and then you go back to your teaching and. You know, you go back to instances where maybe you said something in practice like, this could happen, that could happen. You know, they could do something like this. But ultimately, yeah, it's my risk. You just take the blame for it and you fix it, you know, and you tell the guys, hey, you know, I need to do a better job of coaching you on those kind of plays.
And, yeah, inside the 5, I mean, like I was asking Ryan a while ago, this defense, a lot of things are going well for it right now, but one of which is, as Josh Proctor said, if you have an inch to defend, you're going to defend it. You brought that philosophy with you from Oklahoma State, et cetera, but to see it actually happening in front of your eyes, what is just really going on with this defense right now in those moments, goal line stand moments, that just jumps out at you?
Confidence, you know, confidence only comes one way, unless it's false confidence. Real confidence just comes from practice and doing it over and over again. So, you know, you only have like certain concepts you use in those circumstances. So, you know, you just try to go against, like when we go against our offense, it's not planned. You know what I mean? It's not. I don't really know what they're going to do. So. You know, whereas when you go against an opponent, you plan it, you practice it certain plays, but it's more of just our guys knowing the system. You know, they know what we're going to call and they know what they're supposed to do, and there are a million things that could happen, but they've covered it, they've practiced it over and over again. That's how you gain confidence.
But then the aggressiveness in that moment too, though, you can know what's coming, but
yeah, you still got to play fast, you know. And you only play fast if you know what you're doing. You know, I've always said that if you see a player out there, and you men and women are pretty knowledgeable, but if you see a player out there sometimes and they don't look like they're going that fast, and you wonder, hey, what's wrong with this guy? Is he not motivated, or does he not know what he's doing? I mean, like, you can't play this game fast unless you know what you're doing so much that you don't even have to think about it. You know, that it just happened. So I think that's what you're seeing showing up.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Jim, we hadn't seen Kai Stokes play at all this year until this past week. Is there anything that was keeping him off the field, and is there anything you've seen from him the past couple weeks that's allowed him to get in the game?
Yeah, Kai you know, just had some guys in front of him. He's always been a worker. He's always been a positive attitude guy. And, yeah, I think in the past couple weeks in practice, because, you know, all this goes on behind the scenes, I've seen kind of a light bulb come on with him where he's recognizing more plays and how he fits and what he does in the defense. So there's just kind of, you see it in practice. I think he's been getting better.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Tommy Eichenberg had a ice on his arm, whatever. We know he played last year with the thumbs.
Can't play without an elbow or a forearm.
I mean, how you know, are you concerned about his availability this week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not concerned about Tom. I mean, he'd play with one arm if he had to, you know. So, you know, I know between the trainers, they'll make the, you know, they'll make the decision for him because he'll play. You know what I mean? He'll play. If we let him play, he'll play.
The guy we haven't talked about much this year is Gabe Powers. I see he's on the kickoff coverage now. What progress has he made? How close is he to being ready?
Yeah, Gabe is close. I'm glad you brought him up. I mean, he kind of worked his way on the special teams, and then he started making some plays and kickoff, and that's how it works, right? And then all of a sudden the guy gets on the travel team and he gets to go to the hotel, and then he's around you and you start working him in practice, and he does more and more things right. So he's close.
Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Jim, when you have a game where you give up 232 yards on the ground, but it seems more like an anomaly than anything else, how do you evaluate the performance, knowing that there's so many games where the data that haven't done that, and there's one where you have, and how do you kind of compartmentalize that?
You look at it play by play. You know, I'm not as concerned with statistics as I am just with progress and getting better. So you just look at it play by play, and you know, you fix the things you need to fix, and you continue to grow the things that you did well. But it's just play by play, really.
Bill Landis, the podcast.
Jim, there was a play at the end of the first half where Rutgers was doing some tempo. They snapped the ball when you all weren't set. They put the formation in the boundary, and Jermaine just kind of flew into the backfield and tripped up the running back, where it looked like maybe if he hadn't, he might have scored on that play. At least that's how it looked on TV. Did it look that way on your tape, and what did you think of that play from Jermaine?
I thought he did a great job of pulling his trigger. You know, that's how the call was designed, and he, like, for a freshman to be in that situation, which he's rarely in, because of, like you said, the formation, blah blah blah, everything yielded to him. Hey, this is your job here. He did it. He took his shot. I don't know if he really got him on the ground or not. I mean, JT came in and got him, but he slowed him down. So I think it's a big deal. I guess you're right, because that's an unusual formation, an unusual situation for him. The call dictated for him to do that. Yeah, that's all great, but until you see it happen on the field, he did it. And as a true freshman corner, not in that situation a lot, I think it's a big deal.
Andy Anders, 11 Warriors.
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned confidence, but what other things go into successful zone defense when, you know, the field is condensed, tighter execution, things of that nature?
It's just a lot of practice. It's a lot of situational awareness. You know, Coach Day preaches the situations and understanding the situations, and whether it's third or fourth down or red zone, where you're at, what do they like to do. There are only so many plays in football. You know, what's our call? How does it work? There's a lot of intangibles, but guys who like football, they study that stuff and situational awareness.
Jeremy Birmingham, podcast.
Jim, with Sonny obviously having to play multiple spots last weekend because of the injury stuff, how do you balance the conversations with him throughout the week of where to prepare? Because it seems like he's comfortable closer to the line of scrimmage, and sometimes, at least from our vantage point, maybe looks less comfortable when he's back deep. Is that something that you have to sort out throughout the week, or how do you balance?
No, it's just based on who we're facing, what we have available personnel-wise. I didn't think he looked uncomfortable at all. I thought he had a really good game when you look at how he fit and managed the scheme from a high safety position. I think you may think he looks uncomfortable just because he's a giant safety back there. You know, it may look uncomfortable, but to me, he looks fine, and I like him back there. But it's really week to week. What are we playing? What are they doing? What is our availability in terms of personnel?
Shock you still that that's a kid that should be a true freshman right now and isn't even 19 years old yet to see what?
Yeah, I don't even think about it. You know, he's very mature. He plays like a veteran. He handles himself like a veteran. Yeah, until you remind me, I don't even think about his age or where he's at, because he acts like a veteran.
Joey Kaufman, Clemson Dispatch.
Jim, a lot of the sites out there have Jack Sawyer with a high grade last couple of weeks. What have you, from your evaluation, from watching him play, how well is he playing right now?
Yeah, I said it. They're right. I guess those people know what they're doing. I don't look, but I mean, yeah, I mean, you can noticeably, he's just getting better. It's all the hard work, I think, that a lot of people don't see unless you break it down, like maybe you do or those services do, that he's controlling blocks, getting off blocks, making tackles, affecting the quarterback. You know, even if he doesn't make the sack or the hit, affecting the quarterback, and he's just been really productive.
Is is a lot of his production the fact that he's playing his natural position now, and getting or comfort in the scheme? What do you sort of attribute it to?
Both. I mean, I think that's what he does best, and he's more comfortable every day. And the more comfortable you are, the better, the more you can utilize your athletic skill. And I think he's just getting really good at seeing the scheme and knowing where to fit.
Doug Wayne Reese, Kings of the North.
Jordan Hancock started this year.
Kings of the North.
That's just the other podcast.
We'll get you a shirt. Jordan Hancock started the year as like the nickel situations more as a coverage guy, and now circumstance injuries. He's out there, he's snapped there. Just like finding anybody who can handle all the responsibilities of that nickel spot in the slot. Are there a lot of guys who can handle that? Is it difficult to find guys? And how is he done with every bit of those responsibilities?
Yeah, it's difficult to find guys, and you really don't know until you put them to the test. It's almost equivalent to like a quarterback who can run and throw. Like Jordan, when he has to play the nickel and in the run fit, you can get beat up. Like a running quarterback can get beat up, and then you have to go back out there and cover a slot, which is a highly athletic skill. You can't find running quarterbacks all the time that can also throw the ball accurately, and it's very similar. He gets physical in the run game, and then he has to come back and perform an elite athletic skill.
And I'm not exactly sure how to ask this question. I remember like last year when you guys played Toledo, right? You played sort of a quarterback who could move around, and then later in the season you played some other quarterbacks who could move around, and it feels like maybe that was a reference point.
Mm-hmm.
How much does it help to, when you play a team during a season that maybe stylistically is similar to a team that you might face later in the season, but maybe is even at a higher level of doing that kind of thing? Does that matter to a defensive coordinator, or you just watch the film and it doesn't matter if you play a team like them or not?
And no, I mean, you like to have those situations, those formations, those plays, that kind of scenario. You like to have as much experience in that as you can, so you're not just starting from scratch every week, because every opponent is so different. So yeah, when you have a reference point to go back to and something you can talk to your players about, so this is just like when we did this, it helps.
Nathan Barrett, Cleveland.com.
Well, I know you don't pay attention to statistics necessarily. I know you pay attention to the explosive plays, something you guys count every week. I think Rutgers had 7 runs of 10 yards or more. So as you went back and watched each individual play, were you seeing more evidence of, hey, this team had 2 weeks to prepare for us, good running back, or this is stuff that has to be corrected because, especially the game that's coming up in 2 weeks?
Yeah, we had 7 explosives, which I think is only maybe the second time we didn't reach that goal that we have personally. Maybe it was Notre Dame was the other one, but yes, some might take accountability for, like as was referenced, okay, bad call by me, that kind of thing. And then other ones, yeah, we have to show guys getting out of their gap, routine things that can happen unless you're diligent about it, so we had a couple of those. And they, Rutgers is an improved team, really are down there. If you were there, physically and up front, and the way they run the quarterback, it's a different deal. So, we certainly can learn from it, but yeah, you have to go through it play by play, and you have to say, this is why it happened, and if it's my responsibility, I have to take responsibility for that.
When you're trying to take away a running back like that, are you sometimes having to give up something else?
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a physical running back, really. Really not only talented, but tough. I mean, he would, hit it up there hard blocking for that quarterback. I mean, that creates a whole another dimension, right? to the offense.
And final question, Clay Hall, WSYF.
The phrase "working the rivalry" has been around here for 20, 30 years. Does the program still have that luxury? Is it done in a formal sense, or does that come from Coach Dave? Do you still do that?
Yeah, that would come from the head coach. You know, I just know. Yeah, I know what's right in front of me. Yeah, he does a great job of having a handle on that big picture and always working towards that.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, folks, you know the rules. You're out of here by 1 o'clock. We're all late already. Off the indoor by 2.
I appreciate that.
You have a recorder
Jim on the
here?
play special, because I feel like they're going to add it to Madden, and I just couldn't. I mean, I'm going to send that 32 NFL team.
You're scouting in person for 32 NFL teams?
Oh,
Started.
Oh, really?